All right, folks. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone who is joining us today. It has been so much excitement for us to do this. I would like to thank my guests today for being here to support me. We would love to answer as much question as we possibly can within the given time. But of course, we will not have enough to cover everything. But like every time, I like to at least, revisit the chat and get the questions collected as much as I can, right? So before I begin, obviously I said no slides, but there are a couple, and this is just going to be to introduce my guest, and myself, because of course it is better for us to, first introduce before we jump into the topics, right? From the agenda wise, we don't have any concrete or raw agenda. Pretty much simple. We will introduce ourselves, and then we will kind of jump into the Q&A. Of course, anyone who feel like coming off mute, coming on camera, asking questions, then there is a raise hand feature. I will encourage to use that when we get to that time. And then if you have questions that you want to probably put in the chat, then that is also fair. That helps us to answer, as we take more questions, so we can parallelize some work there. And if you see a question that's already been answered by someone else on the chat, then it's just better like it or something, so we'll get some reaction collected, so we know that, hey, like multiple people have thoughts on that. All right, so I'll talk a little bit about myself. I currently work in Microsoft as senior data scientist. Today's talk will not be aligned to anything or me representing Microsoft at any point, so we probably will cover to keep it more general. Obviously, I have helped prepare candidates with other companies besides Microsoft, and we should not focus on company specific, rather than we will probably focus on the questions based on general market. I worked briefly with a few other companies, VMware, fintech for some time. So I think my first data science career actually started from Wells Fargo. I'm a prior service member. I've worked and served in U.S. Army for almost 5 years. Then I was a data analyst for SPAWAR, which is a government entity. That's how I started my data career, right? So as an analyst, and pretty much worked my way to learn data science myself. Besides, my actual work, I basically do some LinkedIn content sharing to help people and community, and learn a lot myself from this community. So thanks everyone who is following me so far in my journey, and if not, then please do. Definitely I can share more stuff in coming days. I am also in top mentoring folks, with interview preps, resume building, stuff like that. Ultimate goal is somehow to help from anything I can offer. A few career tips from my end. I think people sometimes underestimate the resume itself. Like they are like, hey, I'm not hitting back, my response rate is slow, but how much time you have spent on tuning your resume, and then that becomes the first question for me, right? Because that is the key to door opener. And if you're asking referral with your networking folks, make sure that you ask them, hey, what kind of responsibilities or work that this role is particularly doing, so you can kind of tailor or tune to that, right? So you want to make it very strong before you hand over your resume to that person as well. And then a lot of times I see people focusing on multiple things at once, like, hey, they want to do product data science, they want to do ML data science. Even if we do 3 of the career path that we have choose today to discuss, I've seen people focusing on more than that, like, hey, I don't know, I want to do data engineering as well. And some people say, now the AI engineering is booming. What is that? I want to do that. So randomization won't help, right? So for me, I think particularly picking up your one career path, like, hey, this is what I really love doing it, and I want to do it, that will be really helpful. And networking and mentoring, I think, start early than late. I think you don't have to wait until you graduate, or you don't have to wait until you need a job, So in my own career, I tend to wait longer to start networking, and I saw tremendous value on it. So sooner the better, right? So that's it for me. Let me hand it over to Shivam.
Hey everyone, I'm Shivam. First of all, it's great to see such a huge turnout today. I'm excited to share my thoughts and my opinions with you. And as Nirmal mentioned, like whatever thoughts or opinions we share today does not represent our employer, even past or previous employer or current employer. So yeah, just keep that in mind. A little bit about me, how I got into data science. So I started with ZS, I started working in India. I worked there for 4 years. I was a data science consultant, and that's how I got into data science, and that's what sparked my interest. So I decided to pursue my master's in data science from US, and yeah, since then I've worked at a couple of companies like Tiger Analytics and Amazon, and currently I'm working as a senior data scientist at Google. A couple of career tips from my end would be, which really helped me as well, was that in the entire interview process, be it resume or the actual interviews, I believe that if you are very clear in your communication, that always beats the complexity. So if you tell your stories in a very simple manner and don't use very complex or technical jargons, sometimes we have that habit of adding a lot of technical, like model names or coding languages that we just touched upon and that we don't even know about in our resume. And I've seen a lot of resumes with a lot of technical skills mentioned, but I mean, it's a common sense that you don't have expertise in all of them, right? So it's always good to cut the crap and always keep simple in resume. And also, I've seen that people apply to every job with the same resume. So I think that really reduces the probability of callbacks. So you should always look at the job description in detail. I understand when we are applying for jobs, we don't have much time to look at all the job postings details because we just apply to any job opens. But in order to increase your chances, you should always try to tailor your resume to the job description. Yeah. Uh, that's all from me.
Hey everyone, first of all, thank you for joining on a weekend, and thank you Nirmal for hosting this and always giving back to the community. And I'm Sai Kumar. I currently work as a lead data analyst at Blue Cross Blue Shield. And as we mentioned, all the things that we mentioned in this call do not represent our employers or our previous employers. And prior to that, I worked as a data scientist at Lego as an intern. And my journey in data started when I came to United States to pursue my master's in data science. So besides work, I also create content on data analytics, data science, job search on a few platforms like LinkedIn, Instagram, and Substack. And few things that I want to mention here are focus on business impact, not just tools. A lot of people go into this black hole of learning SQL, Excel, Power BI, AWS, Azure, DBT, Snowflake, Airflow, or you name it, they have it on their resume or they try to learn everything. While tools are important, just I would say try to drill down on what role you're targeting, what are the most common skills that are being used or tech stack that companies use, and then fix to that and focus on business impact. What really matters is like how you help the business make money or reduce their loss. So always ask yourself like what are the problem that you're solving and why it matters. Companies value it more than your tech stack. Second thing that what I want to mention is build and showcase real projects. Again, impact matters. So it's not about like if you have used a new tech stack or if you have used advanced technology, but it's all about is it helping the company reduce loss, save time, or make money, or whatever it is, the impact that you're trying to show. So even when you're trying to build your portfolio, do not again depend on Titanic, Iris dataset, Boston River datasets. Like hiring managers have seen them thousands of times, if not hundreds. So build something from your personal data or like there it's easy to scrape data right now with AI. So just scrape your data from the web or any platform that you would like to, but also just make sure that you adhere with the policies of the website. And if you have a problem or generate synthetic data with Claude, so it's never this easier to create synthetic data. So again, showcase real projects. Third, networking and visibility, one of the most underrated things most people do. So I always say network when you're not desperate for a job, when so you can leverage it when you are desperate for a job. I've made this mistake of not networking when I was in masters. I started when I was in job market, which I should have done when I started my masters, so I could have leveraged it when I was in my job market. I learned it the hard way, and then I thought like it shouldn't happen for my next job search or my for my long-term goals. So I started networking once I got my job, which should have been earlier. But so the point is like always network early, and then networking doesn't mean just texting 100 people. Show real value. Show how can you add value to their content or maybe to their project or whatever it is. So be genuine, show curiosity, and it compounds. Again, in 2026, it's not just about what you know while it matters, but it's also about who you know and who knows you. So let people know what you know, let people know what you're looking for. Only then if someone really wants to help, they can help. So if you don't tell that I'm looking for data scientist role. I know Python, I know ML, I know deep learning. No one's gonna know that you're in job market. No one's gonna know that you are looking for something. So make sure that people know what you know and what you want. So yep, on to next.
Hey, Karun, yeah, thanks for joining on the weekend, and thanks, Nirmal, for putting this together. A bit about me. I started as a software engineer in Dell. So typically everybody does in India. I worked there for about 4 years. I had a few mentors there who got me interested in analytics at first, and then ML later. Started working in ML towards the tail end of my career in India. Got really interested, plateaued at my company there, and like decided that it would be a good time to pursue a master's. Did my master's here at CMU. Got into Amazon as a data scientist first, moved into an applied scientist later, and now working as a data scientist at Walmart. And besides all of this, on side I also try to create content on Substack and LinkedIn, basically focused on interview prep, focused on keeping up with data science and all the advances that AI is making in recent times. And I do a bit of research on SLMs and recommendation systems as well. And apart from all of this, I try and help as much as possible the community in terms of cracking a role in data science. And most of my feedback, like everyone mentioned, isn't necessarily me as a spokesperson for any of the companies that I work with. It's more based on my own experience in the job market, finding roles in 2020, 2023, stuff like that. Key career tips that I sort of give is one, getting callbacks is, of course, the hardest part of the interview process, especially if you're like a fresher. And you just need to understand that callbacks is 50% your projects and your resume, and the other 50% is your referrals, especially if you don't have like any kind of name brand college, name brand companies. Getting that initial callback is going to be very tricky. So make sure that you focus on both. You focus on referrals by sending out connection requests on LinkedIn. Be specific with your connection requests. Say that I'm asking for a referral for this particular job ID, and here is a project that I think that matches well with that job ID. Just 2 lines because you only have like 300 characters. So make sure you utilize those 100, 125 connection requests that you can send out on LinkedIn weekly. Apart from that, when you pick your projects, make sure that you there are sort of like two distinct paths, in my opinion, follow in data science. One is like the tech heavy path. This is where you have a lot of projects that are very technically dense, kind of research oriented. You typically have worked under a professor, so it's very specific to the technology or very specific to some kind of domain like LLMs, diffusion models, CV, reinforcement learning, whatever. And the other part is where you focus a little bit more on the business problems or the business side, where you solve specific problems in finance, in e-com, in marketing, etc. So figure out which path you fall into, figure out if you fall within the business path, you focus on one domain and you don't try to crack a role in every domain possible. Apart from that, again, realize that different roles have different skill sets that hiring managers are looking for. Like applied data science, where you fit and fine tune models and put them into production. The skill sets that an HR might be looking for is more fitting and fine tuning models, feature engineering, productionization, and error analysis and improving models. Those are like the four main skill sets. But if you're looking for a product data science role, it's a little bit more different. It's more oriented towards causal inference, A/B testing, statistics. So understand what skill sets are required for different roles. Make sure your projects demonstrate those skill sets. And for interviews, I know a lot of people do like to prep for company specific because we don't really start prepping for interviews till we get an interview. But the best bet is to focus on your foundations first. And that's typically lead code, SQL, stats, ML, and system design or case studies. So make sure you put a good month of prep into all of this. Code every day, SQL, stats, you can finish in a week. Machine learning and case studies, again, you have to do fairly regularly to build that skill up. And then once you stand landing your interviews, then you can maybe switch over to company specific prep, looking at company specific questions and company specific interview loops and stuff like that. But make sure you spend a good majority of your time focusing on the foundations. Otherwise, because the foundations is sort of like that 20% of thing that you need to learn to cover 80% of interviews. So focus on your foundations first. And if in case you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn.
Hey, thank you so much, Karun, Shivam, and Sai. That was a great intro and a lot of good career tips already. So I'm hoping some of the curiosity or concerns is already covered there. And if not, obviously we have more time for Q&A. But yeah, so few highlights they pick, right? Like Shivam said, it's not very strategic to use the same resume for all. There is no one master key, in my opinion. So you're gonna have to tailor a little bit. That doesn't mean that you want to tailor for every job. That's why I think first thing is important to categorize the job family, and this is what we currently do today. Is like, is it data analyst focused job? Is it ML focused job? Is it product data science focused job, right? So if you kind of cluster a group by that way, I think at least it becomes a little bit easier for you to manage your resumes version, and then the skill matching, right? Of course, right? So depending on some of the acts, some job may have very specific skills. That doesn't mean that you're gonna keep tuning your resume for every single skill they are asking these days. Obviously, I see the job description is crazy, right? So they ask everything. So, all right. So Karun mentioned a little bit about interview prep. I'm going to do a small kind of plug in here. So we did write a book, I think last year. Got a lot of good feedback on this book, like good suggestions as well, some of folks in, and I love hitting both, right? So right now, I think it's going on sale as well. If you guys want to grab it, especially to cover the ML fundamentals. So this book only covers the interview main, like, hey, if you have 2 weeks, and then kind of want to focus on some of the concepts that's going to pop up in interviews, right? What to focus on. That was our goal. We never plan to teach ML from the book. That's not the intention. We hope that you already have the understanding of ML concepts, and then if you're solely preparing for interviews, we're trying to help out. So anyhow, so if you haven't grab it later. I'll share this with the email and the code and everything, right? So you don't have to worry now, but just keeping that in mind. All right, so let me stop sharing my screen and we can start Q&A. So I'm going to reiterate the fact that if you have a question and you want to come off mute on camera, please feel free to raise your hand. I'm going to go on the order. First in, first serve, obviously, right? The way I see in my screen, no other preference. And then for my guest, obviously, the request will be if something that you see in the chat that, belongs to your kind of domain, like especially today, ML is mostly covering by Karun and myself. Product data sciences will be covered by Shivam, and some general analytics, or advanced analytical questions will be covered by Sai. All right, so we can begin. I'll start taking questions, and then folks on the chat, please keep asking, and we will monitor that as well. All right, the first one I saw in my screen is Sankar Manoharan. You can unmute yourself and ask a question.
Hi guys, myself Shankar. Let me introduce myself first and then I'll shoot with the questions. So about me, I currently work for JPM Chase, currently into credit card, debit card fraud. And I've been for the past 5 to 6 years, I've been working on the classic ML, so on the fraud detection. But now my goal is basically to move into GenAI. So I've been into deep learning, building LLMs. But in terms of interview prep for GenAI, what is your part? How are you guys doing it? Because I know LinkedIn is full of a lot of stuff and sometimes it is overwhelming. With working and for you to experiment everything, it takes a ton of time. So how are you guys canceling out all the noise and what are you guys focusing on? Your reply will truly help me. Yeah.
Yeah, if Karun, you can take it.
So typically when we start applying GenAI in the office, you start out by mostly depending upon most of the heavy lifting to be done by some of these LLM services like Gemini, Code, whatever you're using. Most of the time, you're just focused on evals. So typically, the first round of interviews, or in most places, since that is offloaded to some of these big players, you're just mostly focused on evals. So the typical, the first round of or first focus for your interview prep is focusing on evals. Aishwarya and Naresh has like a really good GitHub, which is like free to learn, and that helps you understand how to build flywheels for evals. The strongest one is like LLM as judge, but having some kind of rubrics, some kind of guardrail mechanisms, how to develop that data set and how to build it over time, showing experience there and showing a little bit of like theoretical knowledge there helps a lot. So evals is probably the first thing you want to study. The next, to get the best bang for your buck, everybody goes into RAG and retrieval. Maybe just I'll just touch upon topics like dense and sparse embedding retrieval. Those are like a few things that you need to know how to make your retrieval a bit more efficient by a little bit more ensembling and some retrieval oriented metrics. Just knowing those will help a lot. But yeah, getting a bit deep into RAG is going to be your next level of maybe proficiency, or probably the next level of questions that you're going to get after evals. And once those are done, then it gets a little bit heavy into either PEFT or alignment. So when you're talking PEFT, it's QLoRa, LoRa. Those would be, I haven't seen a lot of people use adapters, but I have heard people mentioning in papers that they've used adapters, but QLoRa and LoRa seems to be the way to go in terms of PEFT. And in terms of alignment, PPO, DPO seems to be dominant. So these are like some topics you can touch upon, but typically it's most of the interviews will be on evals, RAG, and then it splits off into whether you are trying to get your LLM to be a lot more efficient, or you're trying to build like agentic systems. If they're more focused on agentic systems, you need to focus a little bit more on system design in agents, which is kind of still being very well, kind of being defined. I would say Claude has a lot of blogs that will walk you through them. There isn't really a good book that sort of lets you understand like agentic design. Like the only thing that's I would say is kind of well defined is prompt engineering, which evolved into context engineering. That is like somewhat there is a little bit of principles behind it, but everything else with regards to agents is still very vague and still very, I would say, people sort of build stuff to get things to work. So yeah, it depends upon what path you want to follow. If you're going into agentic design, switch and understand system design there more. If you're just focusing on getting your one specific LLM to get the most appropriate responses like chat interfaces, then focus on PEFT and PPO, DPO a bit more.
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks, Karun. And then I just have one more follow-up question. Now, in terms of infrastructure, if I want to experiment something, see, all this while I've been using VS Code to collab interaction. Now, are there any other better infrastructure which is more cost effective, or what do you guys use?
So, like, yeah, I mean, since I work on it, I have the advantage that the company provides a certain infrastructure, which is a little bit, yeah, I mean, I can't talk about it, but yeah, if you're somebody who's working, learning on your own, yeah, Collab GPUs, it has like an A100, which is good for PEFT. You need to pay, but yeah, it's good for PEFT. So if you're just looking at PEFT, that would work. If you're looking more into agentic design, keeping token cost down is tricky. I don't really know a way around it because I sort of learned on the job. Yeah.
Karun, can I answer that question? I was practicing on it. So I used RunPod GPU. So you can rent RunPod GPUs. It's quite cheap. Maybe in $40-50, I got A100 and I was able to train my models. 2-3 hours I got it trained. So you can try RunPod. And very nice and tricky ways. In Kaggle you have good TPUs. The TPU there is as good as A100 is what I felt. So I have trained it for 9-10 hours and it was quite good. I used RL, GRPO. It went good. So maybe try those.
Okay. Kaggle, I think there is a limit of 12 hours, right?
Yeah, 11 hours.
11 to 12. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. Thanks a lot, Karun. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you. So, folks, I love how audience came online to answer it when they have come across something, right? So that's amazing. Please keep doing that if you think like it will help in the conversation. Thank you so much. All right, so we'll go on next person, Luthra Kusharaga. So one thing I apologize for mispronouncing name.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah,
that's okay. I just go by Kush. Hi, nice to meet you guys. So I guess this is a two-part question. My first question was just a general question. When you guys were giving your overviews, some of you guys mentioned that you guys had done a master's. If someone like me, I have about 7 years of experience within data analytics, and I wanted to self-learn data science and ML, is that something that would still allow me today to be qualified enough to pursue data science jobs in today's market?
Yeah, in my opinion, there is not a hard requirements from so like masters, PhDs, right? I mean, masters help because if you want to focus a little bit on some specifics, like, hey, you want to do more towards the deep learning research, or like today's, like, I don't know, more into the AI focused, but for For folks, I have a lot of connections with even bachelors, making all the way up to principal or higher role in top tech companies, right? There is no blocker as such from academics, right? So I suggest some folks, like initially, I myself, like when I was in data analyst and thinking about data science career, I was thinking, the title has a scientist. Does that need PhD, right? Definitely not. So, and it's all about skills these days, in my opinion. Even when I'm tuning folks' resume these days, like I tell them to uplift the skill section all the way as much as possible. Even some resumes I have suggested, it's kind of like comes before the work experience for me, right? We want to highlight what we know and what we can do, of course. So that should not hinder in any shape or form from academics. It's all about you showcasing what you carry with you. That's all matters in today's market, to be honest.
Perfect. No, I appreciate that. Yeah, I've been trying to take on some pseudo data science work myself just to focus on the skills rather than just a title, and that helps. The second part of the question was like around, I think Karun was talking about applied data science versus product data science. And so, I've been working for a food delivery company, essentially like the Canadian conglomerate of Just Eat Takeaway, if you've heard of the European brand. So I've been working as a senior data analyst there for the past 4 years. My expertise is within customer marketing analytics mostly and a little bit of product, but I'm not really sure whether I should focus on product data science versus applied data science though. I know you mentioned the differences between the two. I was wondering if you had any tips for me to kind of gain some clarity around what I should pursue and what type of skills I should focus on for each.
So yeah, I can cover applied data science and Shivam can take product. Applied data science, typically the projects that sort of like gets you a call back are projects that demonstrate like 4 skill sets. The main one, fitting and fine-tuning models, just being able to figure out like what model works and getting like the most out of that model, being able to demonstrate that in a project is good. The next is like being able to productionize and put those models to scale essentially. So being able to show like some kind of experience with one of the cloud platforms, AWS, GCP, Azure, one of them. Essentially the 3 buckets that you need to learn are compute, storage, and serving, and a little bit maybe around orchestration. So being able to productionize ML models is a good skill to showcase. The next one is feature engineering and data analysis. So just being able to work with data and showcase that you engineered some feature that improved model performance. Because typically when you work in a company, your performance boost doesn't really come from changing your model again and again. Like very rarely do we, once a model is out in production, do we change it to a different model, because the bias and variance of different models are different. So you never alter your model specifically, you just make small tweaks and additions to the model. And one of the main things that gives you performance boost is bringing in new data and engineering new features. So seeing that in your projects really resonates with hiring managers. The last one is error analysis and improving models. Typically when you go into a company, they have models that they have in production. So you're expected to figure out where it's falling short and how you can improve it. And that's essentially error analysis and improving models. So those 4 skill sets are what you want to showcase in your projects. Product data science, Shivam can do.
Yeah. Thank you, Karun. So for product data science, as far as the type of projects are concerned, so product data science mostly revolves around how you make a business impact using data. So it's more tailored towards the impact that your project made versus like what kind of technical model that you used. So let's say you did some deep dive into some metrics for a product, and then you were able to uncover that there was some opportunity in order to improve that product, and you can capture XX amount of dollars. So that XX amount of dollars is the impact that you show on your resume, that you were able to drive a product roadmap using some data insights yourself, and you were able to influence the product and business with that data insight. So that is one of the most important things when it comes to product data science. And definitely, apart from that, A/B experimentation and causal inference are good to have on your resume. So if you have done any projects related to causal inference or experimentation, because both of them also drive product roadmap. So essentially, for product data science, you need to be able to influence your stakeholders. You need to be able to work cross-functionally across product engineering, UX, and senior leadership. So that is what is more important from product data science perspective, I would say.
Okay. Thank you so much. Love it. That was great. I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Great question. And thanks, Karun and Shivam, covering really well on 2 aspects. Yeah. So that's definitely a little bit difference in the career path and you want to tune on the skills, right, based on which path you want to lead yourself to. All right, so next person I can see on my screen, Arpit, you can unmute yourself and ask question.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. Yeah. Hi, everyone. So let me introduce myself first. I'm working at a Quick Hill, Pune. It is a cyber security company, and I worked as an data scientist one from past 6 months. So my question is like, I want to work at Microsoft, but since I am not from a tier one college, but I have those skills like traditional ML, deep learning, and most of the part of GenAI, and also I'm learning the new topics in the GenAI. But I'm just confused, can someone crack a data science role at Microsoft without 3 to 5 years of experience, and even they do not have any kind of privilege of college or a kind of background?
Yeah, of course. I've seen people like in every company, Google, Microsoft, you name it. The levels are different, right? For every company, every role. So there are a lot of entry-level roles that doesn't demand you to come up with all the experience, right, on the work, at least the professional side. Of course, there are competition that you're competing against some of the folks who have some experience. That's another story. But from the requirement aspect, who are still, eligible to apply those roles that actually meet the criteria, and you can showcase your skills. A lot of weightage is also based on how you perform on the interviews, right? How the skills that you have on your resume kind of map to the requirements of the role. And most of the times, like when I'm reviewing resumes from the candidates, right, I'm not focused on what college he or she went to. I'm not focusing on, like if this role is like entry level 1+ year experience, someone has 5+ year experience, right? I'm giving kind of like more advantage to 5 years. That's not happening, because for us, I think the reason we put the entry level roles for a reason, we want people to come grow into that role, right? So people with higher experience, if they apply, I think from retention standpoint, to be honest, it's risky for a company, because, when market gets better, they might get better opportunity, they might leave us, right? So companies also think from retention aspect and letting you grow into the role as well. So there is no such hard requirement.
So, is it possible like to get a call back based on skills?
Yes.
Even without
Yes, of course. Yes. I mean, it's not happening because like sometimes there's other factors too that we have to focus on. Like, is your resume kind of tuned? Did you find someone to help you with referral? If you meet the criteria, right? And a lot of this stuff, right? So simply not hearing back is not because, like, hey, I don't have a good college degree, or, I don't have enough skills. That's just the assumption that we can make, but it's not true, in my opinion. So
since I'm working in a cybersecurity, and Microsoft has also a product called Sentinel. It is in cybersecurity. So do I get an like advantage of that working in a cybersecurity?
Some of the roles, if you look for the, I don't know, you're targeting data science or, other title for cybersecurity engineers, a lot of the times the entry-level roles fall into different categories, like say security operation role, there is service engineer role, there's SRE, various titles are out there.
No. I'm saying since there are also work related to cybersecurity and data science. Since I'm currently working in a user behavior analytics in a cybersecurity.
Okay.
So that's why I'm saying do I get the advantage of working cybersecurity data science? So
yes. So the roles that it advertised for the security team, they usually call out that, hey, people having security experience is a plus, right? They cannot say that having security experience is the requirement, right? But of course, it has a little bit upper age if you have already worked in the security domain. Yes.
Okay. I got it. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Nirmal.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you. All right, let's moving on. Talha is the next person I see in the screen.
Hello, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me properly.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, so I am a recent data science and marketing analytics master's graduate. I live in the Netherlands now, and I'm trying to land a job as a junior data scientist. But since I just graduated, I'm super confused because most of my experience tends to be either internships or super academic. What would you guys recommend as to projects that I should build or skills that I should develop on in order for me to land a data science role after I've just graduated? Because you can imagine people like us are on a visa and it expires soon. So yeah, I would love your advice on this.
Yeah, I'll let Sai give a little bit thought on this.
Yeah, I think I see two questions. One is on landing a entry-level data science role, and another one is your visa complication. First is like Karun and other guests mentioned, it's always about like real-world impact, focus on tech stack and also your non-technical skills like the business impact and other stuff, and not the toy projects, but make sure that you're working on some real-world projects, maybe Kaggle or data.gov, or may generate your own data like synthetic data, and that's one thing. And participate in Kaggle competitions as well, and make sure to post on LinkedIn, get feedback, iterate on it, and it's a loop again. So make sure that people know what you're working on. Another is visa complication. Make sure to start looking for job at least a semester early. Most people start looking for job when their OPT starts. So if you're graduating in May 2026, make sure to start. I mean, you should have started by Jan 2026. So at least for 5 to 6 months of buffer would help, because you need to apply for jobs, get those calls, and then you need to give interviews. It takes at least a month or two depending on the company. You might get rejections, and then you need to start applying again. So it takes ton of time. So give yourself at least 6 months of buffer time before you graduate to start applying for jobs, and then you'll have 3 months of OPT time. So you'll have solid 8 to 9 months of application time, interview prep, and other stuff. And before you start applying for jobs, again, make sure to have your network built, and then give yourself some time for interview preparation. So focus on mock interviews, practicing SQL, Python regularly. So when you get an interview call, you'll make sure that you will ace it, because getting an interview call is more difficult than acing the interview in this market. So you need to be well prepared. So when you get the call, you just ace it or you give your best. Again, there are factors that are not controllable, your competition performing well or your internal employee gets promoted. These are factors that are not in your control, but the ones that are in your control, your resume, your portfolio, the projects that you ask, and then your network, your interview preparation, these are the things that you are in your control. So make sure that you plan everything right before you graduate, your resume, mock interviews, interview preparation, network. So you the chances of you getting a job before your OPT ends will be way more than someone who just starts applying 90 days before their OPT ends. So I hope this helps.
No, it really does. Thank you so much, guys. I'll keep this in mind and I'll try to, because in my master's they did not teach us SQL. I'm trying to learn it on my own. I would also love for if you could guys could tell me one or two resources that I could consult for SQL for my SQL prep. But other than that, thank you for answering my question.
Yeah, I think for SQL, Alex the Analyst and then Luke, they have amazing videos, end-to-end videos on SQL for data analysis, and then also SQL for data engineering. He posted yesterday like a 14-hour course on SQL for data engineering as well. So I think Alex and then Luke, their videos are amazing. To practice, they're amazing platforms. Again, interview query is good, data interview is good, try exponent is good. So just make sure to go through each of the platforms once and then see if you find what you're looking for. But all three of them are really good. I love all three of them. And also Data Lemmer, so can't ignore Nick. So he has amazing book. There's the data science interview. I would say start with the book and then practice on one of those platforms. So that should do it.
Perfect. Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much. There are websites like I put one in the chat, like Ivan is one that allows us to create our own database. The best way to learn is sometimes like you spin up your own server, connect it from the notebook and try to learn that way. So yeah, I think it's amazing how many tools and resources we have today, right, to learn it. All right, so moving on, Sujata Biradar is my next guest on the list.
Hi everyone. Thanks so much, Nirmal, for hosting the CMA and for everybody else for offering your expertise. I wanted to make sure if you can hear me. Okay.
We can hear you. Yeah.
All right. So a little bit about myself. I'm currently a lead data analyst at Progressive Insurance. I support the whole life cycle, right from discovery of the opportunity to sizing and then setting up the experiments. So basically designing the experiments, analyzing, making a recommendation, and so on, using A/B testing, causal inference. So when I look at these skills in the job market or the job descriptions, I see them under mostly senior data analyst or senior data scientist roles, product analytics within data science. So I've been applying, I'd say not so long, not from a very long time, couple of weeks, but I've only been hearing from senior data analyst roles as I expected. My question is, so if I were to, let's say, switch from analyst role to data science, is title required in this job market? And second would be, this is my observation about the job market. Not only the title, but teams or hiring managers are preferring the domain, even metrics experience got alignment in the previous experiences. So they're that niche right now. So I just was curious, what roles should I be focusing on to maximize interview calls and efforts?
I can briefly answer because I kind of come across the same career path from analyst to data science, and then maybe I'll have Shivam to help me how much, like we can add there. One thing is like when you go from analyst to data science and you're already doing a lot of the statistical work, right? And that's one of the required key skill on the product side of data science as well. As an analyst, you're already doing a lot of SQL, a lot of the business related KPIs, and kind of like product thinking already, in my opinion, right? Because Sai, like he's been working on the advanced analytics side where you have to do a lot of this analysis, like it's not about only the machine learning engineers or ML focused data scientists do the ML, because there are some models that you can obviously folks are applying, like regression, time series forecasting. They are the common ones, right? Most of are doing like without doing too much into the advanced deep learning side, So for the folks coming from analyst background to transition towards the data science, I think my personal opinion is there is a lot of transferable skills to go on the product side of data science. But of course, you have to build the product thinking, the product sense, which like Shivam was highlighting earlier, right? Like you have to think from the feature aspect, experimental design aspect, A/B testing side, and a lot of things goes under the causal inference side, like we think from the correlation side when we are building ML, like all the features are making sense, but the product data science are the folks who test exactly to make sure if that is true, right? So if the model, what it's predicting is good from accuracy standpoint, right, which ML delivered, but is it how much true or how much impact it's going to create on the business? That's another analysis they do too, right? Like the business ROI side. So in my opinion, I think, the career transition path will be a lot smoother to start as product data science and then again navigate like my whole entire career has been kind of like figuring out what is the best fit for my skills and what I really wanted to do. That's something I can say, like you already have some lot of skills.
Yeah.
Any tip? Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, no, I was just adding to that. I think Nirmal covered most of it, but if you have already worked on such projects, like you mentioned, then you shouldn't worry about the title because title keeps on changing nowadays. Like people who were calling themselves analysts now call themselves data scientists. So it doesn't matter, to be honest, but if your project speaks to the requirement of the job, so I think that should be fine.
Thank you. And my second question was around, do you think domain team or like metrics experience matters? Let's say I'm applying to all kinds of data science, product analytics jobs or different companies. So currently I'm in customer experience analytics team within CRM. So should I only focus on in my lane or can I hope to hear back if I, let's say, apply? The company is hiring for the similar roles. I see Meta hiring a lot for product data science, product analytics, left in these companies. And I also have a beef with Microsoft. I've never heard back for some reason. So I'm trying to understand what it is.
One thing I want to generally answer for the domain specific, like even for other folks as well, would be my personal opinion is like once you are in the industry for like maybe 2-3 years plus, like at least if you're targeting the senior level roles, then the domain will help a little bit because of course, if I go apply for roles outside of security today, right? For me, I think the way I have gained my exposure and experience in security, I don't want to leave it behind if I'm going for senior level roles, right? So it naturally makes sense for me to kind of like find roles within that domain, but that doesn't mean that I have to, right? I can go outside of my domain. Like, for example, you mentioned Meta, right? I can apply the Meta to some data science roles, but how much gap, will there be? Because of course you're going for a senior role, the expectations will be accordingly, right? And if I'm enjoying the domain, of course, I will stick to the domain. But if I'm not, then of course you can switch, right? So that's just the easy and fast answer I can find. Yeah, Shiv, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you.
I know. I was about to say the exactly same thing, Nirmal, that you talked about. That at a senior level, it might make sense. And there are some specific roles open in specific domains like marketing, analytics, or ads related openings. So there they might need a very specific domain experience. But yeah, like Nirmal mentioned, that some companies also hire for a very general data scientist role because they do these domain matching later on once you clear the interviews, like a team match phase. So it doesn't hurt to apply, and you might get a call back for those companies based on your current experience as well.
All right, sounds great. Thanks so much, Shivam, Nirmal.
Yeah, no worries. I think that's a very good point Shivam brought up. Like some companies do general pool hiring in the beginning, and there is domain matching afterwards. Some companies hire based on the headcount, right? Like for example, in Microsoft, we don't hire with the general hiring and then match later, right? So it depends on that as well, right? So all right. So moving on, Sikha Upadhyay, she is next in my list for the quiz.
Hi. Atul on this side. So hi everyone. So a little bit about me. So I have a 4 year of experience. So basically I'm in the Mons Tech, majorly focus on front end part. So recently I started learning this data science deep learning part. So the problem that I'm facing right now, it seems like there's so many things to learn. Learning Python, SQL, deep learning. So I need guidance from here and like how I can approach.
Yeah, that's not a whole lot of things. You just mentioned 3. No, but I agree. There is a lot, man. Things is changing so fast. I think it's always going to be a moving target. We're not going to catch it, right? Everything. In my opinion, this is again comes back to this not targeting one specific job, but like the family of the roles that kind of aligns well with your skill set and interest, right? Like, are you inclined to do more ML type of data science role? Are you inclined to do more product type of data science role? And try to figure out what are the foundational key skills these jobs are looking for. There's always nice to have versus must have, right? So you need to figure out what are the must haves for these roles. And then first is like, okay, I meet all the checkbox on the must have. And then only you are looking for nice to have skills, in my opinion. A lot of the times, even in my own career, I was randomizing myself for a lot of the new advancement in the market, and then what are the nice to have skills. And then I look back, do I ever met, or am I strong enough on the must have skills? And sometimes the answer is I'm not there yet in some of the skills, right? So focusing on that, like foundational skills, like if you want to go on the ML track, for example, you're gonna have to prepare for DSA. Like the first round will be some data structure type questions for sure, right? If you want to go for the product data science, you're going to have to face the SQL, like type of questions, or the case study, or the product type of questions. So this kind of depends on that, right? So some folks are not well prepared until the time of interview. And then they're like, okay, now I got to call back what to focus on. Sometimes it might be already too late. You're going to have all your, preparation could have been done earlier. So that's my take. I think always have that expectation that you're not going to meet all the ongoing trends, things like that. It's because things are changing super fast. Like maybe we are speaking now about some technology will probably be not there for tomorrow, right? So it's all about like how you kind of prioritize your own career path, in a way.
Thanks.
Yeah, no worries. Next person on the screen, Gayatri Kumar. You can come off mute and ask a question.
Hi, everyone. So what I wanted to ask is, I am a recent master's graduate in AI, and before that in UK, and before that I worked in India for a few years as a backend developer for chatbots. I worked with Python and also on the NLU side as well. And I just wanted to know if you're like trying to pivot into data science, whether my experience has relevant business impact, or whether I should do more related projects, and if I should do that, how should I show business impact with that? And another thing is, I'm currently seeking some roles in UK, and I'm looking at roles related to my skills as the job market is quite tough. But I do want to pivot into data science at some point, and I just this might sound silly, but is there like a point where it's too late to pivot?
All right, anyone can take it.
So probably highlight your ML experience for your data science role, not your backend experience or AI. But if the job description says AI as well, highlight both ML and AI. But if the job description says only ML, highlight that part of your experience in your resume. Have multiple versions of your resumes, and then choose the ones that's more relevant to the job description. On the second part, is it too late to pivot? I would say today is the best time to start, and tomorrow would be the second best time. So give it solid 3 to 6 months or 9 months, and then you'll be in the top 5 percentile, or maybe one, depending on how much time you have, efforts you put, and then how you leverage all the existing resources. A few years back, having good resources was the problem, but right now we have more resources. That's the problem. So it's not difficult, and it's never too late. So I would just say highlight your relevant experience. If you find gaps, focus on those gaps in terms of projects, voluntary experience, or maybe unpaid work, or working with a new startup and then getting that hands-on experience. Fill those gaps, highlight the relevant experience, and then just start. So it's never too late.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, definitely. the answer to your second question, we all four can agree it's never too late, right? For any of the journey, I think, to learn and try for that domain role, whatever, right? So because I don't think there is a time limit in my opinion. All right, so next person, I can see Pavitra in my screen.
Hello. This is Pavitra here. So, a little bit about myself. I'm currently pursuing my master's in US and I have 5+ years of experience as a machine learning engineer at Ford and then as a data scientist at Tiger Analytics back in India. So, after graduating, I'll be focusing more on senior level roles, specifically in Mang level company. What would be your suggestion for interview prep for these kind of roles, specifically in Mang?
I love how the acronyms keep changing, right? We are in Mang, so let's wait what
Is
it
it
turns
Mango?
out.
I think it's Mango with NVIDIA.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I'll say is it's always good to focus on some of these tech companies, but if you are limiting, I think you should not, right? So that's the first take. There's a lot of other good companies that doing really good work and stuff, and then it might meet your career choice, right? And then again, coming back to this something that I mentioned earlier, I think if I'm building a interview prep plan or the roadmap, I would not limit to a specific company to say, in my own career, I have not ever just said that I'm gonna keep applying for a couple of these companies and nothing else. I haven't done that part. And it's hard to say that, hey, if I generally prepare for all, how much specific or focused I can be for a particular company, that's always there. But once you start hearing back, then you're gonna kind of converge to that company, right? But when you are in the process of applying and generally to all, I think you should have the strategy for covering more than less, in my opinion, right? And then for some of this Fang Bang, like let's not go there, but these tech companies, the way they are really good on being more transparent on the interview process as much as they can, right? So you can actually find a lot of good prep materials being posted on some of the blogs or shared by some of the folks, and you can tailor that to it. In my opinion, ML focused role, if you're inclined to, you're going to have to do some coding DSA and then prepare for, I say easy to medium level would be enough for DSA, because the bar is always not as high as software engineering, because we're not hiring software engineers, but we want to hire someone who can code and as well as do the data science work, right? So that's what it is. And then it depends on the career path again, right? Coming back to our 3 job families that we are kind of targeting today, what role you are. All of these companies hire different types of roles, right? And if they are hiring for the more into the AI, the latest technologies they are asking in the job requirements, then of course you want to brush up on what's happening, like agentic framework, RAG, all kind of stuff, because if the job is talking about it, and if the job is talking about general applied science role, then you need to be a generalist, right? So it's always generalist versus specialist. It kind of boils down to that, in my opinion. So, all right. So hopefully I answered it. If not, let's keep it offline. We can connect, if you're looking for any specific company or role, then if I have my take or any one of my speakers, they can also share their insights, so we're going to have to keep moving. Sally Bryan is next one I see in the screen.
Yes, sir. Good day. I really appreciate the initiative you guys are having with these sessions every weekend. It's really of great help and mentorship, like a source of motivation to we aspiring data scientists. Well, my name is Saleh Bryan from Africa, specifically in Cameroon, where I took the AWS AI and Machine Learning Scholarship Program, and I finished it. So I happen to have used AWS as my main model deployment option. And now I'm currently working as a data scientist at an e-commerce platform here in Cameroon called Bayam, which simply connects buyers and vendors online together. So my question is based on the current frameworks and code bases I've been exposed while here at my working experience venture so far. And Sir Karun, you've always been mentioning on your platform on how to put our models into production. Main mention of ML flow, fast API. But yeah, we use the Flask instead of fast API. So I don't know if I have to learn Flask API on the side, all that. And then all the other things you have to study, like Kubernetes, Prometheus, and Grafana for monitoring. Well, I came from a background where I used the mini AWS SageMaker to carry out all of my model deployment. So now I'm faced with that difficulty on how to manage to cope with them, my own current business context that I find myself. And moving forward, I don't know if I'm on the right track, if I don't want to get to that part of AI engineering, language modeling, and all that. I really wished and aim to actually end around both computer vision and natural language processing. So I don't know if I'm on the right track based on my current context of my company here, because this is my company here, they call Bayer. They have literally two main branches which we are required to build end-to-end machine learning projects on. We have the search and recommendation branch, and we have the marketing branch of the e-commerce companies. So Karun, I don't know if I'm on the right track in terms of my way of positioning how I'm going to end up being able to carry out impactful end-to-end projects here at my current e-commerce company. And then Sai, I don't know if SQL is that very much needed, if it's that I'm targeting, but then this and computer vision roles.
So, just maybe to understand what exactly the question is, I think there are a couple of parts. I can maybe help with the part that you mentioned about within your company, there are two main branches, search and recommendation and marketing. So, in terms of those two areas, definitely, I do feel like, at least in marketing, LLMs are having somewhat of a positive impact. Rexis, I mean, in search and Rexis, I do think, based on whatever papers that I've read, there haven't been like any large scale systems that have been put into productions with LLMs, just because search and Rexis operates at a significant scale. So yeah, it depends upon what domain you want to go into. If you are going to go into marketing, then it might be a good idea to just check out a couple of, how to work with LLMs, how to work with RAGs, how to work with maybe agents. Yeah, possibly agents as well. In terms of like how can you get started, there are like plenty of agents and LLM courses. The ones that I typically recommend are the ones hosted by there's this very popular Substack that's also started courses, Daily Dose of Data Science. They have like this really good courses, and they have it's a very popular newsletter as well. But they have like a really good course on getting started with agents and RAGs and everything. So you might want to check that out.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, guys. So next person I see on my screen, Navneet. Go for it.
Let me first introduce myself. My name is Nonit Kumar. I am a final year student, BTech CSE. I have learned Python, machine learning, SQL, Power BI, deep learning on NLP. I make several projects. My question is how I am currently facing a difficulty in getting a job, intensive opportunity in data science. I would like to ask for your guidance on what skill I should improve and how can I prepare for a better becomes to an industrial ready.
I think we did answer a few times, right? So if some folks in my guest list can handle it, but I think we covered it a few times already, right? So it's hard to pinpoint on particular skill versus what you're trying to do based on your career path of preference, which track you are trying to go, stuff like that. So, but I'll let if anyone has additional thought.
Yeah, again, depends a little bit on the role. For applied data science, I'll just drop a guide in the chat. It's basically how to prep for interviews, but yeah, learning how to prep for interviews sort of builds the skill sets required for the role. Yeah, if it's like any specific role, just drop a DM to anybody, any of us, and we can send over like some content that we have.
So what type of makeup project and mention your resume to get a shortlisted?
Yep, I'll share that guide for applied data science as well. Actually, Sai and I worked on with a few other creators to write like a guide for all kind of roles. So you can check that out. It's for data analysts, product data scientist, applied data scientist, AI engineer. It's a free guide that you can download. And yeah, it'll walk you through good projects.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Navneet. So there is a person I can see with a code word here. So and something like you. Yeah, the encoder come off mute.
Hopefully you can hear me well. Yeah, so I have been following you guys for quite some time, especially Sai Kumar Pisani and Karun. Both of them are really well known for their data engineering and data science content respectively. So I was just wondering about this. I'm a recent graduate, a master's student graduate of industrial and systems engineering, but I specifically focus more on operations research. So the course name is as such. Most of my coursework was heavily related to machine learning and deep learning. So I was wondering if, like the course name designation would probably be a hindrance or an obstacle to land roles?
No,
I can
like
so what I think is, do you have experience? First question that I have is, do you have prior experience, and then
Yeah,
do you
I
have
do, but
relevant?
even the
What
prior experiences, right?
what
The
was it
2 years
in?
of experience was like a systems engineer, was term systems engineer, but most of my work was related to A/B testing, ETL, and also like
Data work.
like data migration, and
Mhm.
also like the model evaluation, like the regression model evaluation and other duties like that. And my
Got it.
other recent experience was like for AI engineering, where I was a graduate research assistant at my university, and I worked more on the like RAG agents and stuff for biomedical applications. So I was wondering if these designations would again be a like a.
I think your experience is mostly into data, and what you're targeting also aligns with that. Since you
Mhm.
especially have experience in your resume, you would put your experience at top, and education usually
Mhm.
moves down as you grow in your career. So the hiring manager recruiters might not notice that. But does your designation, I mean, your master's major say industrial with major in data science or data analytics or AI? Does it say
Yeah, it
something along
does.
those lines? Okay, then
Yeah,
that
it
shouldn't
does.
be a problem. Your experience is relevant to data, ML, and AI. Masters, your courses are related to ML and data again, and you have a major of data science in your university course name as well, so it shouldn't be a problem. And education, as you grow in your career, it keeps moving down in your resume. So I would say it wouldn't be a hard stop, or it wouldn't be a bottleneck for you as well. So I would say focus just on more of your relevant work that you mentioned before, and then if there's a
Mhm.
gap, again work on a project. But I think your skills, your courses that you have done, everything speaks to what you're looking for, so it shouldn't be a
Mhm.
problem.
And also, like the coming to the personal projects, now that I do have some sort of relevant experience, do I like still go along with with emphasis on personal projects, or do I focus more on my professional experience? I do have like a portfolio, but yeah, I was just wondering just in case.
What I would say is, if what you're targeting doesn't align with what you have on your resume, or if you see that
Mhm.
there are some gaps, let's say you have past experiences in data science, but you're looking for MLE, or not, you
Mhm.
haven't productionized the models yet, so that might be a gap. But if you have done MLE work prior to that, and then if you're looking for MLE, and then there shouldn't be need of projects unless there's new technology, or like you have done something as part of your coursework, as part of your passion project, add it. But if there are no gaps, that should be fine. Or maybe you're targeting a specific domain, but your previous work experience was in different domain. If you want to cover that gap, be it in terms of technical gaps or
Mhm.
like domain gap, it shouldn't be a requirement as long as it aligns with what you have done and what you are looking for. I'll let Karun add his thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, same. It's mostly about whatever gaps you have, as long as you can overcome them with some kind of like solid business relevant problems, that'll always help. In terms of like finding business relevant problems, my go-to is always go to Kaggle, go to the competition section, check the competitions that are closed, but sort them in order of like a reward. So
Mhm.
essentially, a reward is sort of a proxy for how important a business problem it is. Like if you go to Kaggle and just go to the competition section, just search for retail and then sorted by reward, you will probably see like an M5 forecasting competition or NEM's recommendation system competition. These are like actual business relevant problems. And if you're confused about how to get started, go to the discussion section of those
Mhm.
competitions. And people will put up like how they completed or how they got like the first place in that competition, how they got the fifth place in a competition. So it's like really good information about how do I go about doing data analysis, feature engineering, model experimentation, and getting like really good model performance. So those are like good ways to start with
Mhm.
problems and pick good problems. Yeah.
So to summarize, in case, for example, let's say like we haven't done like Docker containerization or like something related to AWS. So these could be addressed by solving real world problems as our own personal projects, right? Like you mentioned. And
Yep.
finally, one last question. So for the AI engineering roles, a lot of us might have seen recently, a lot of AI engineering roles have been popping up. And unlike the MLE or MLOps roles, these roles seem to be focused more on the RAG agents and also like the LLM inference, LLM optimization. So for these roles, like how the interviews actually be, would it still focus on the traditional ML algorithms, like the 9 or 8 classic algorithms, like the like XGBoost or logistic regression, or would these focus more on knowledge graph RAG, and MCP or stuff like that?
Typically, you get called back for these roles if you have a project in your resume that are around RAGs, LLM optimization, some kind of context engineering, agentic design projects. So typically, it again depends upon company to company. You might have like your ML foundations round where they ask you like questions around like foundational models, but eventually they will ask questions about the projects that you have implemented in your resume. So most of the questions will be around, okay, how do you make your RAG more effective? How do you keep token cost low? How do you do your evals? Stuff like that. I'll just share two guides around questions that I do like a few interviews with like people who have recently landed roles. So I get like a few interview questions from them. So I've posted two guides on questions that they have asked around LLMs and questions they have asked around agents. So that can give you maybe an idea about what kind of questions to expect, but it's typically based upon the projects that you have done.
And finally, like for these AI engineering roles, do they still focus on the essay, or do they focus more on the like detail? I mean, the LLM part of the interview.
Again, depends upon the company, but typically any kind of role that requires you to put stuff in production, i.e. applied data science, AI engineer, ML engineer, they do have lead code rounds because you need to write good code. So they typically have, yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, guys, for your time. It's been very insightful.
All right. Okay, so we are at the time. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending today. It has been a lot of engagement. We tried our best to cover everything that we could, but of course, like I said, it's really hard. And then I will probably do like usually all my meetings, kind of like a surprise random pickups for like 3 folks, maybe the book that you saw earlier. We will pick a winners and give it three books away. If you are in US, I might be able to sip it, the hard copy. If not, then you'll get a digital version for sure. Last but not the least, I will let every one of my speakers speak maybe a minute to share your final thoughts. Start with Karun.
Yeah. Job market is definitely a little bit tricky at the moment, and how soon you can land a job really depends upon where you're starting from. It's okay if in the current job market you feel like you need to take a step back, move into like a data analyst role, business analyst role, just because those might be a little bit more abundant, and typically because they are given like a lower salary, hiring managers are willing to take a chance on freshers or immigrant students like us on those roles. If you need to take a step back, get into those roles, get a foothold in the market, don't feel bad about that. That's sort of like the most important feedback that I give for candidates. Sort of hesitate to make pivots when needed. And apart from that, the key thing is talk to people. It's very easily that when you are going through a struggle to self-isolate and feel like there's nobody who's willing to help, nobody who's willing to understand. Don't do that. Talk to people, reach out to people on LinkedIn. We are definitely willing to help. We've been there. That's why we want to help. So yeah, reach out and we'll provide whatever help.
Thank you. Shivam, last thought.
Yeah. I see like a lot of people asking on the chat that if I don't have a relevant experience, should I like apply for the roles or not? So I think you should not worry about like having relevant experience or not. If you are interested, you can always upskill yourself. There are like a lot of resources available online. So don't be afraid to things work out in the end. As Karun mentioned, like don't be afraid to get your foot in the door with the entry level DS positions, even if you have some years of experience and you really want to pivot to DS. And I think we've all been there. Like I also made a pivot from consulting to a product specific domain. So yeah, I mean it's definitely possible. Just feel free to reach out to any one of us over LinkedIn for any questions that you'll have.
All right, Sai.
Yes. So I just want to mention that sometimes it's not you. It can be the market. It can be the competition. It might not be in your control. So don't be hard on yourself. Just keep going. Just keep doing what you're doing. So we all have been there. So all of us are just a text away. While it might take some time for some of us to reply back, but make sure to follow up. So again, not just with us, but with anyone. Worst thing that could happen is you get ignored and it's going to stay between you and the person you reached out to. But the best thing that could happen is you get a mock interview or you get a referral or you get a job. So never hesitate to ask for help or to reach out. I always say ask and then get ignored or get rejected. So don't assume. So let the other person decide if they want to reply, refer, or reject you. So don't reject yourself. And then focus on mock interviews, your network visibility. And if you don't post on LinkedIn, you don't have to become a creator. And if you want to, that's a good space to be in. But just keep posting on your skills, projects, certification, what you have learned. So visibility matters. Again, if you haven't posted, like Nirman mentioned, this might be a chance to post on LinkedIn. You can tag us what you have learned, what are your takeaways, what questions you have. We'll try our best to engage with the post and get you better reach, but make sure to post. So on that note, like wishing you the best from all of us.
Yeah, thank you. That was a great wrap up, guys. You guys made it possible, so I definitely thank you for all of you being here to come with us, and then my guest speakers, very much thank you to your time, obviously on the weekend, and then I guess the power of community is this, that we can organize sessions like this, and more will be coming for sure. We always get inspired by your engagement, like the curiosity and everything you bring it up. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good long weekend.